Thank you very much, SK Gaming. We're pushed a little bit more in this one, but again, able to close it out. What do we make of the early game standard lanes in the bottom lane as well for the first time? And H2K could hold their footing a little bit better.
Yeah, I think so. The biggest thing for me is that SK picked a comp that was scaling. A lot of that was due to the fact that 5 AD carries were banned, and that's obviously going to affect your gameplay. Something that Deficio mentioned in Picks and Bans is Forgiven's opinion on Vayne. So there's a champion that is not good in the meta, has low, bad base stats, is not particularly good at itemization. When 5 AD carries are banned, you're not left with a lot of options, and he still shows up on a champion that he doesn't think particularly highly of.
I mean, Picks and Bans, 5 AD carries banned. That is just astounding. And then you have Forgiven who just pulls out the Vayne for the first time we've seen this split. Vayne as a champion is, you have to lane swap with the Vayne. If you're playing the Vayne, you have to lane swap. And SK made it super smart. They showed N-rated in the bot lane, gave H2K the impression that they're going to go for the 2v2. And the egos of the players of H2K, of SK Gaming, they scream for a 2v2. They always want a 2v2. They don't want a lane swap. So by showing N-rated on the bottom lane, H2K was like, okay, we got the Vayne in lane, it's all going to be fine. Super smart by SK.
SK's been practicing a ton of Vayne. Speaking with N-rated earlier, again, they were expecting the Sivir pick and throwing in those 2 bans and securing the Vayne. They knew that this is the matchup they wanted, and Forgiven's Vayne, as we saw, was absolutely magnificent.
It was absolutely magnificent, but we got to give some props to H2K early. We saw some good plays coming out of the Kalista Annie when they went to mid lane, got that kill. And also the Dragon fight, the third one I believe it was, where Hecarim had a beautiful flank. They were on track, but then H2K try to push their advantage with going for Baron, and you just can't give that Vayne 3 kills, man.
No, you really can't. And the problem with H2K's team composition, number one, it lacked a lot of damage. You had a full tank Rek'Sai coming out of the jungle. Yes, Hecarim can offer damage with that Trinity Force, but not enough to take out a Lee Sin, an Orianna, and a Vayne. On top of that, while Shyvana's running amok. And then, you know, Deficio talked so much about the Kalista build. You needed a whole bunch of spears to do anything, and Hyana never got the time. So I feel like they needed to find more damage. I also feel like H2K, again in this matchup, picked bad team fights. They are not showing the same level of control and coordination that we have seen for the last 11 weeks.
Absolutely, the team fights they took were horrible, but you have to keep in mind, if you're H2K Gaming in that game, then you have to pick fights because you have the time running against you. SK Gaming, with Orianna in the mid lane, with Forgiven on Vayne, who has free farm for the whole early and mid game, you have to close that game out as early as possible because you know, once that Vayne reaches 3 to 4 items, there's just no stopping her. So you have to take fights. Some of them were bad, and then you fall behind and lose the game.
Yeah, and so important is the trigger finger on the Hecarim ultimate. We saw when it was good, then the team fight will go into favor of H2K. And something as a side note, in the 5 games versus Fnatic, H2K held on so much to their picks and bans. Odoamne is not bad on Hecarim at all. When he got those engages right, they were beautiful. And when he was one-on-one versus lane, it was pretty good as well. I'd love to see them come through with some more adaptations, as you say, in this next one, but we'll see how they pick.
I completely agree, and I think Odoamne, while he found some very good flanks, he was also really finding the pressure. We saw so many times he was sitting in the base, waiting for a TP, waiting for a TP. The rest of the team did not offer the vision required to get as many flanks as Odoamne wanted. He spent a very large portion of that mid game looking for an opportunity, but he cannot set that up. It's responsible for everybody else, and the rest of the team didn't give them the positioning, the warding, and the flanking for Odoamne to punish.
Plus, once Forgiven finished his QSS, it was really hard to lock him down. At the Baron fight, he had a quick QSS onto the Hecarim Fear, and he was able to sneak away off into the corner and stay alive. Also, Fox's Shockwaves were not exactly on point, but he also wasn't using Command Protect on Forgiven as well, especially in that fight. So had the focus been a bit better, it could have been really... a fight could have been turned, but Forgiven was able to live.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see maybe 6 AD carries bans coming out in the next one. We'll see what they decide to do. Before we get to Game 3, though, let's hear what you guys are saying on Twitter. As earlier we asked you, what has been the biggest surprise in the European LCS playoffs so far and why? And here's what you think. Our first tweet is from @MadParrot. Obviously, the massive Cinderella story of the Unicorns of Love with the SK upset. Pretty sure no one even expected them at playoffs. Hey, I predicted it. Just gonna say it one more time.
Yeah, I predicted this as well. Like Unicorns, whoever knows me, I'm a huge Unicorns fan. That whole team is just really amazing and nice guys, amazing players. The season itself didn't look so good. They were shaky at some points. They were the middle of the pack team, and now they're in the finals. I mean, whoever predicted that story is a fucking genius.
A second tweet is from @VincyDaga. Most definitely Fnatic. The 4 rookies completely surprised me. Yellowstar has done a great job as the veteran of the team.
Yeah, definitely. And this is something I spoke about on PTL leading up to the semifinals. Yellowstar had to rebuild a team from the ground up after Pekka and Soaz and the rest of the crew left last year. And what a great job. Importing 2 Koreans, Rainover with phenomenal impact in the early game. Huni is just the star of Europe right now. And the most important thing to me is just how aggressive they play. We heard Yellowstar saying a while ago, give us time, we'll find more styles. You don't need styles when you can just strangle the life out of anybody you face on the map.
And that's going to be a smashing matchup tomorrow, Fnatic versus Unicorns 11, that final. Our last tweet is from @PurpleFerret56. The biggest surprise in the EU LCS playoffs has to be that Elements isn't in it, being the favorites coming into this year. Leviathan, of course, you used to work with Elements as well. What do you make of that?
Oh boy. I guess I don't know what happened. When I worked with them, we were a good team. They didn't perform well this season. I don't know what's going on. I'm not involved in their camp.
Is it all in the coach?
Yeah.
Well, as always, we love hearing from you, so keep the conversation going throughout the finals and tweet @LOL Esports with that hashtag LCS. Now, we're just minutes away from Game 3, where H2K need a win to stay in this fight. As we head to break, we'll hear from how they make it to the top 4 in the spring split, favoring all-around team play that couldn't be countered.
They want to take out Copenhagen Wolves right here, right now, and punch their ticket to the semifinals, and it goes down.
I definitely think this is a good first split. I really do wish the players got more recognition than they do right now. But at the same time, I am really happy there's no egomaniac on the team who's doing things for attention.
Excellent control of the neutral objectives this game. They've barely given up a thing.
I don't think anyone on our team got an outstanding personality or whatever. I guess that's why we don't have a certain identity for our team.
We basically ran the same strat over and over, and people knew what we were gonna do, but they couldn't really counter it because it was it was a really solid ship. So I really like that identity where everyone knows what we're gonna do, but they just can't counter it. They can't really play around it.
Oh, they're stacking up. Who's going to get it, though? It looks like it's going to go over Dragon number 5 to H2K as Lulix gets the smite down.
We always focus on objectives rather than over kills because it's like we play the game as how it was intended. I guess that's the identity.
The fans will come once the players get in their groove and we start, being more impressive. Hopefully our identity becomes the team that never throws.